Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to discuss another important topic, tax invoice. Most of people talking the name incorrectly. It's VAT invoice, but it is not the correct way of telling that because as per the law, it should be called as tax invoice, right? Then how to prepare tax invoice also I will discuss. Before moving to the tax invoice, let's have some sort of idea about what is invoice, right? So invoice you are issuing for the customers when you make transaction sales, right? So there could be one company. Let's say this company is company A, not registered for VAT, not registered for VAT. Then there's another company, let's say B, also not registered for VAT, right? Then what will happen? So A will issue invoice to B based on their sales, right? Sales, let's say 100 worth of sale, right? Then they will just issue invoice for 100. Then what B will do is B will make the payment for this 100, right? So that's it. This is as normal, just invoice. This transaction is happening between two non-registered person, right? Two non-registered companies, right? They both parties are not registered. Then the second scenario, I would say this is scenario one, right? So this is scenario one. And the second scenario, if you take, right? So transaction is happening between scenario two, I would say, company. This is, let's say, company P, right? And this is company Q, right? P and Q. This person, this company, VAT registered. So let's say not VAT registered, not VAT registered. And this person, VAT registered. Q is VAT registered. Q company is VAT registered. Then when company P issuing invoice based on their sales, right? Sales, when P company issuing invoice to Q, do they need to issue a tax invoice? No, because they are not registered for it, right? They are not registered for it. Then they will issue normal invoice, 100, right? 100 only. Then Q will pay the same amount for P, right? Company Q will pay the same 100 to Q, right? So this is the normal scenario. It's even if it is VAT registered person, not VAT registered person, or if you are selling to, if you are an unregistered person and selling to another VAT registered person, then both cases you just issue a normal invoice, right? Invoice, right? Normal invoice, right? It's clear. Then in the double entry, I'm talking about too much, right? Then the double entry, you know how to record sales and cash, right? Then when you receive the cash, you can debit cash, and sales you credit, right? So if you want in the same, you will make two accounts, or the here you will dealing with only two accounts. One is cash account or debtor. You will debit 100 cash. Another one is sales account, right? The one sales credit, right? You mention as cash, right? So this is a double entry for the above as well. It's very simple, right? And it's straightforward. And you will record as cash as 100, and the same time you will record sales as 100, right? Then I'm going to little complicate, but not complicate because it's you will get easily with this mind mapping technique, right? So scenario three, right? Scenario three, is another interesting, right? Scenario 3, I would say. This is, let's say, company X, right? Company X making sales to company Y, right? Then when they are making sales, let's say sales, let's say company X VAT registered, company Y not VAT registered, right? When company X issuing invoice to company Y, do they need to issue a tax invoice or normal invoice? What is the answer, right? Let's say current VAT rate is, what is the current VAT rate? 18%, right? So what they will issue, which invoice? Tax inclusive invoice. Since X company X is VAT registered, right? Since they are registered for VAT, they have liability to collect VAT on their sales, and that particular amount they need to transfer to the Inland Revenue Department, right? So I'm talking about the double entries also, just to clarify, the company who makes sales, right? I'm just drawing the double entries, the companies who are making sales. In point of here, A is the journal entries. So in this case, P's journal entry is P who makes sales, right? And I will discuss the journal entry in the scenario 3 as well, right? Shortly. Right. When company X issuing sales, making sales to Y, then they will issue, since they have registered, they are acting as agent for the government, and on behalf of the government, they need to include that amount for that particular sales as well. Then they will issue invoice, which is called inclusive invoice. We can't say exactly how much it is VAT, right? It's called inclusive invoice. Inclusive invoice, right? Inclusive invoice. VAT එකක් දාලා තමයි bill කරන්නේ. If you go for shopping, let's say, right? You might go for CIB, Fashion Bug, or wherever you go, no limit. You should do shopping, Manchuria, right? So wherever you go, they give invoice, but you never know how much is that amount, right? Because even they are liable for, even big companies, they are issuing invoice to you. They include that component as well. You can't see exactly because odd figures are there. You know, here in the example I took as 100, then you can easily see, okay, 18 is the VAT amount, right? For any odd amount, if you purchase, it's include VAT as well, because they have a liability to collect the same, right? They have liability to collect, right? Then how the double entries goes, when I'm discussing the double entry, you will figure out how it is. Then the Y, company Y will pay how much? 180. 180. So how double entries goes? 118, can they report entire 118 as their revenue? No. So how to record this? Then they have to, right? Have three account. One is, let's say, cash, 118, right? Then the sales, how much? Sales, credit 100. Then the balance 18 goes to where? It's liability, credit, VAT control account. VAT control account. VAT control account. All right. This is liability account unit. Then the even VAT control accounts or VAT payable account or output VAT accounts, whatever the name you call, right? VAT control account is when you purchase, you can debit here, right? When you purchase any item, you can debit here, and the net amount you can pay at the end of the month to the government, right? By if it is claimable inputs are there, right? That is there. Then this is how journal entries goes for company X, right? Company X books, right? I'm just making journal entries for company X who makes sales, right? So it's clear now. VAT registered person, once you registered for VAT, you can't blindly ignore even if it is below your turnover threshold, right? If your turnover below the required threshold, even until you officially deregistered, right, you need to issue tax invoice and collect the VAT on behalf of the government, right? Or the threshold below not or VAT register උනාට පස්සේ ඔයා අනිවාර්යෙන් VAT invoice issue කරලා රජයට ගෙවන්න ඕන, right? Tax VAT එක collect කරලා. So once you registered for VAT, it's your obligation. Even other party, we don't care whether they are registered for VAT or not, then you have obligation. Then when you are making, let's look at the another important final scenario 4, right? Scenario 1, scenario 2 we discussed, scenario 3, and the final scenario 4, right? In this case, let's say this is company, let's say A, again company B, right? Company A making sales to company B, right? Company B sales. Then company A VAT registered and company B also VAT registered, right? Then what type of invoice you should issue for company B? What type of invoice you should issue for company B? Right? You need to issue which invoice? Tax invoice. Tax invoice. You need to issue tax invoice. Then you are required to declare 100 as a value of supply, and you need to declare separately VAT amount, and you need to declare 180, right? Also total consideration, right? These three components and also another important criteria are there. I will discuss shortly. What are the things you need to include in a tax invoice, right? Right. There are 14 characters should be included in a tax invoice. As I can remember, I will explain in a shortly. So what are those criteria, right? So then what we will do is we will settle the amount 118. Then how to record in the books of A, right? Again the same, right? Cash, you can debit 118, and the sales you can credit 100, and the VAT control account you can credit 18. Then what is the difference between scenario 3 and scenario 4, right? In the scenario 3 and scenario 4, because we discussed books of the first company who are making sales, right? Here is A, the previous one is X, right? So then the B point of view, if we take, what is the difference between these two? In the B's point of view, if we take B, so, right, if we take here Y, because not registered for VAT, then since in this example, scenario 3, Y is not registered for VAT, company Y is not registered for VAT, then what they can do is whatever the amount they paid as VAT, this is include VAT component as at 18, right? Then they cannot claim VAT because they are not registered. Input VAT, paid, cannot claim because they are not registered. Input VAT, cannot claim, right? Cannot be claimed, right? So the important thing is you to note here why can't claim input. Here, important things in the final scenario, B can claim input because B is registered for VAT. Since B registered for VAT, whatever the amount they can claim as input. In the books of B company, if I note it down here, the company B's books, right? B will record as expense or whatever the cost of sale or whatever the things, right? They will debit, I would say, let's say expense 100, and they in the books of B's company B, they will record in the their VAT control account 80, right? In the previous scenario 3, why can't claim the input, right? Because they are not registered for it. Then what Y will do is entire amount goes as expense, right? Entire amount goes as expense, right? Why need to record entire amount as expenses? Because they are not registered for what they can't claim. No point of recording that separately because they are not registered in the books of Y. In this scenario, final scenario, books of B need to record VAT control account because they are registered. And then finally, when they are making sales, they can claim, right? I hope you understood because here my focus is to discuss tax invoice, right? So here you got to know some basic understanding on the four different scenarios where the invoices you issued, inclusive invoice, normal invoice, and tax invoice, right? Basically, three type of invoices are there: inclusive invoice, and the normal invoice, right? Normal invoice, inclusive invoice, and tax invoice, right? Three different type of invoices are there, right? I know that you are having some questions, right? Because even though you are not registered for, there are some companies, those who are not registered, but when you are purchasing from one company, they will always issue tax invoice because their system automatically generated tax invoice name and content because they can't tailor each customer. This is not registered for it, and then we need to issue a normal invoice. Then it's very difficult to tailor made each and every customer. And then most of the companies, once they design the system, if they registered for that, they will issue continuously VAT invoice for even you are not registered. Here, even the scenario 3, the even if you are not registered other company, then your system will automatically generate tax invoice, but it cannot be avoided, right? That's totally fine in practical perspective, right? So I know then uh, let's look at the important criteria as I discussed. VAT invoice should be issued to only another VAT registered person. And if you receive, if any person who received, here I'm just reading this one, right? If any person who received uh, inclusive invoice, you can request if you are registered for VAT, you can inform, look here, I am registered for VAT, this is my VAT registration certificate, and this is my VAT number, and please issue tax invoice for me, right? If you receive inclusive invoice, if any case, because most of the cases in practically, two companies who are dealing with, right? Then if you purchase some, right, some item, then you can ask from them, please issue a tax invoice, right? Normally, if they are not knowing, if you are a first customer for them, right? They are not familiar with you, then they will issue normal inclusive invoice. Because if other party is registered, then they will issue inclusive. Then what you have to do is you have to send a mail saying that kindly request to issue a VAT invoice or tax invoice. Uh, and then they might ask, finally share your VAT registration, copy of VAT registration certificate. Then they will verify your detail. Even now, you can verify it through the online as well. So once they verify yes, you are a VAT registered person, then they will issue a tax invoice to you. Then you can claim the input, right? You have right to request that tax invoice, right? Then there are some complicated corrections you might get. If you registered recently, you can't go back and for the past period, you can't request tax invoice, right? With effective from the registration date onward, you can request tax invoice, right? You can't go back and request tax invoices, right? So it's important. This is very important document for in order to administrate VAT law, right? And normally, as per the law, it says must issue tax invoice within 28 days of the supply. Say like vela 28 days at the you need to receive tax invoice. It's must, right? As per the law, right? And also in the VAT perspective, custom declaration. In pet name, we call it as CUSDEC. Custom declaration අපි කියනවා කෙටියෙන් CUSDEC කියලා, right? Other rate, right? Cost deck kicker also treated as tax invoice. We consider this one also as a tax invoice, right? That is why you are claiming input on cost decks, right? You can claim input on whatever the imported item. It is treated as cost deck, as treated as tax invoice. You can claim that particular. Then what are the criteria important in order to have a valid tax invoice? Very important, right? Other than the custodic is exceptional. They have a specific format issued under the right custom regulations, right? So in the case of tax invoice, in order to be the valid be a valid tax invoice, right? There are few criteria you need to meet. Then otherwise you can't claim exactly the tax invoice, right? If these criteria are not available in the tax invoice, right? You need to be very careful when you are claiming whether those criterias are met, right? So what are the list? First one is name, address, and VAT registration number of the supplier, right? Who makes sales, right? You need to check whether their name, address, and VAT registration number is there. Then the name, address, and VAT registration number of the purchaser, customer. When both parties exchange the document, right? They need to make sure their VAT registration numbers are included. Both parties, right? Supplier and purchaser VAT registration number, name, and address. But the most of the cases name and address, because if you are issuing tax invoice in a letterhead type of format, right? Anyway, your name, address, everything would be there. And most of the company, they print the letterhead including the VAT registration number. Then that's in that case, that's fine. Then need to include supply purchasers detail or customer, right? Here I'd say even customer, right? Here three things I discuss 3 and 3, 6, right? The one is name, second address and VAT registration number of the supplier, and name, fourth one, name, address, and VAT registration number of the customer or purchaser, right? And the date of invoice. Date of invoice is very important as item 7, and the serial number. Invoice number is another very important, right? Right. And should not exceed 40 characters, right? You can't go beyond the 40 numbers or the characters, letters, right? Then In practically most of the people, they are including at sign, underscore, commas, and everything. Don't include those things. It's very difficult to verify or to validate when you are submitting VAT return. Then just as simple, use English letters and the numbers. It's easy for them to verify, and you will not get any schedule error, right? Then it's easy for you to verify when you are using the verification tools. Right. So I would prefer if you can, because in order to, because there are another issue is most of the company, I would like to highlight this as well, because I also face many issues when reconciliation doing with in order to get VAT refund and the VAT claim credits in order to get the proper credit from the Inland Revenue Department. Most of people do this mistake. Then in going forward, you can, if your company also do the same, you can ask them to correct it, right? So most of the company, they do start from the, let's say their first year is 2023, they start from 1 2 3 4 like this, and the next year also, let's say here finishing 1502, right? Then next year also they are starting 0012 2 3 4. Likewise, they will 2004. Likewise, then when you upload these schedules for both years to Inland Revenue Department quarterly, they will identify your numbers are duplicated for this year verification. Even in the previous years also to 2022, you will get the same issue. In order to avoid this, what I suggest is you can include the year, right? You can include the, let's say 2023, just issue the number with 2023 0001 and 2023 0002. Likewise, you can issue. And when it's come to 2024, right, you can say 2024 001 and 2020 002, right? Likewise, you can issue. Then there won't be any duplication. Then if you like to include your company name to identify, or the month, if you wish to identify, you can include that. Let's say your company is ABC 00. You have another company in different, right? You can include that name, or you can include month, or if you want further customization, because if you wish to filter, but it's up to you, right? Then that's very important. At least if you can segregate by year, then it's easy for validation purpose, right? For verification, and other party also won't struggle, then there won't be any duplication. Then you can easily verify, and other party also can claim the credit, and you also get the same benefit. You can also get the credit from, if you are claiming input from other parties also, right? Right. Then discuss aid and date of supply and description. And date of supply is most of the scenario in practically most people not use invoice. Date is there, date of supply is not practically, I can't I haven't even seen many invoices, but if you wish you can include. 9 would be description, and right, 10 con quantity or volume of the supply, how much you're selling, right? And the 11 value of supply, and VAT amount, right? VAT amount 12, I'd say, and consideration 13, right? Total consideration 180. In this scenario, I use as 8 the VAT previously, which I prepared these slides, right? Then in currently it's 18%, right? 118, right? So then the as 14 tax invoice should be stated prominently in the invoice, right? These are the 14 characters, I would say. this time of supply, if you include, right, date of supply, then you can have 15 characters, right? So it's very important, right? A document I will share, and if you are sharing issuing invoice to non-VAT registered person, you can issue inclusive invoice. It is not required to issue a tax invoice, right? But as I discussed earlier, the practical situations where you can't change the system because its default setting, it's included tax invoice contain the same things for all other invoices, then practically it's uh, happening, right? It's can't you can't avoid. So let me share a specimen of one invoice, and I will share this specimen for you under this video description. You can download, and this is sample you can use to make sure the content. Then I will highlight here the tax invoice. Name is prominent place. It's their name, address, and VAT registration number of the supplier. And the customer name, address, and VAT registration number is their invoice number and invoice date, and the quantity and description and the value also there, total supply value and VAT amount, total consideration is there, right? Other than that, credit terms and anything you can include if you wish. These are the basic, very important detail you should include in a tax invoice, right? I hope this video is clear. So I will upload this tax invoice in the description. You can click on that, and if you wish, you can download. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, right? And you can post any question in the comment section. I will get back to you when I'm having free time. And thank you.